Today I want to introduce to you our speaker, Mr. George Williamson. He's dedicated his life to justice and advocacy through his ministry and his scholarship. Dr. Williamson began his work in 1960 in the civil rights movement, and he led, very actively led, one of the efforts to divest from South Africa through the 1980s, and then he later formed the Baptist Peace Fellowship of North America, and very involved in a number of really good causes. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about some of those things and where we can do going ahead. So thank you so much, and here's George.
Thank you. February 1st, 1960, 65 years ago, I was a Jim Crow Georgia boy, 20 years old, having been taught by my Southern Baptist church, my community, my family, and willingly adopting a thoroughly racist identity. I accepted the portrayal of Martin Luther King in Southern media. I hated and feared him. But that night, I happened to be watching the national news. The lead story was of 4 African-American young men who were sitting illegally at a legally segregated Woolworth lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina, 30 miles from where I sat. "Why are you doing this?" asked the interviewer. And one of the kids said, "I can shop at every counter in downtown Greensboro except the lunch counter. And when I get hungry, I have to leave downtown, and that isn't fair." Nothing I'd heard from movement leaders had made sense to me, but this guy, my age, a college student like me, 30 miles away, made sense. It wasn't fair. We talked about it in philosophy class, put rational constructs around it. I had to think it through over against my Jim Crow. 3 weeks later, February 23rd, 1960, a kid from that class said some of them were going to a nearby Woolworths and meet some kids from the segregated black college across town and do what they're doing in Greensboro. Want to go? Sure, why not? So I went. We went, 10 of us, 10 of them. I met my first black peer, Skeet Diggs, actually Jefferson Davis Diggs. So we paired up and went in. The whites were going to order food and give it to the blacks, and that'd be the end of lunch counter segregation, right? Well, when we walked in, the manager saw us come in, turned off the lights, ushered us all, not just us, all of us out in the street and locked up the building. We closed the Woolworth. There was another Woolworth not very far away, so we walked over there. And when we entered that store, we were surrounded immediately by the police. The chief of police was there and said, "You're trespassing on private property. You got 30 seconds to leave or you'll be arrested." Arrested? Nobody had been arrested in Greensboro yet. Only criminals were arrested. I'd never known anybody who'd ever been arrested. I looked at Skeet, and he was smiling. Before I could process Skeet's smile, that eternal 30 seconds had elapsed. They cuffed us, shoved us out on the sidewalk, where were gathered what seemed to me the entirety of Southern white culture, yelling the vilest obscenities I'd ever heard. At me even more than Skeet. I violated our sacredest taboo. They put us in separate but equal paddy wagons and took us to separate but equal cells in the Winston-Salem City Jail. And there I sat, not with my fellow students, but with street criminals around a naked, open toilet to contemplate who I was anymore and to whom I belonged. I tell you this very personal story because what happened to me that day happened entirely because of those 4 students in Greensboro. Happened more or less to thousands of students across the South, mostly black, some white. The next day, 500 black students were arrested at Woolsworth in Nashville. One of them was John Lewis. You know that name. He and 6 others of them soon formed SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which quickly became the left wing of the civil rights movement. And there were what the media soon called sit-ins in every city, town, and pig tract across the former enslavement states. Listen to this. In 6 months, it was over. Segregation in Woolworths and soon in all eating establishments was effectively ended. Virtually everyone here has more resources and more political freedoms than those 4 Greensboro students. Even their black university turned against them, its leadership beholden to raging white politicians. Though I can tell you that the University of Greensboro, the University of North Carolina, Greensboro eventually built 4 huge dorms that bear those students' names. As I said, there came to be thousands who followed those 4 into the sit-in movement. But you're part of the No Kings movement, which at its last national outing had, some say, 8 million people. Don't tell me we can't get our democracy back. And don't tell me we can't rescue the huge groups of people being savaged by this MAGA administration. I grew up abnormally religious, and what I found myself doing that day was altogether in the face of my immature religiousness. I was profoundly fortunate to have come under the influence of a truly great religion professor who became my mentor in the world of social justice into which I just stumbled. I discovered with his help that my Southern Baptist religiousness had nothing to do with the biblical profundities to which he introduced me or to my calling from God, which had been mediated to me by those 4 students. And later drew me through lots of people like them into movement after movement over the past 65 years. As I stand with you today holding the signs, calling the slogans we share out here, my 86-year-old head rattles with echoes from the anti-Vietnam movement, the nuclear freeze movement, the women's movement, the various iterations of the LGBTQIA movement, the movement to get public institutions to divest their holdings in South Africa, the dark, dark days of the Reagan administration and the George W. Bush administration, the first Iraq War, in the second Iraq War. We've been here before and have seen miracles like those 4 Greensboro kids witnessed before. Every Sunday night I gather with some of you at the Be the Light Vigil, which we hold at Katona Presbyterian Church. We held it on the lawn till the weather drove us inside the first floor entrance on the Bedford Avenue side of the church. Some of us are religious people, church people, who believe that God created the world with a destiny of love, structured by justice, motivated by hope. Some of us don't believe a word of that, but seek justice for reasons just as different, just reasons that are different, but no less profound.
Sign rental?
We'd love to have you there, whatever your stance toward religious faith. We meet at 7 every Sunday night. We try to keep it to half an hour. We hold a candle and share our thoughts about the people being savaged by this MAGA administration. And then we sing this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine, and go back to the work of resistance in the long, diverse tradition of resistance in which we all stand together. From them and from you, I get exactly the courage and motivation I need to carry on. You can see our Be the Light sign on the church lawn during the day, and on Sunday nights you can see the candles burning underneath the sign all night long. Thanks to all of you for giving to this old man what it takes to do it one more time.